Hey everybody, this is Peyton from 4x4 USA, and this is the very first episode of 4x4 Chronicles. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for subscribing and watching my videos on TikTok and YouTube, and just being a part of what I'm trying to do here. This podcast is going to go over history of 4x4s, wheeling, scouts, how to build 4x4s. We'll talk about in more episodes. We'll talk about differentials. We'll talk about tires. We'll talk about just the basics and the fundamentals of building a 4x4 and what you ultimately need to build a 4x4. So, as you all know, I am a big international fan. So of course we are going to talk about the history of the International. And that will start right after this clip. So, where did it all start? That's the question. IH, International Harvester. Where did it start from? Ultimately, it was the McCormick family and the Deers family and a few other small companies, and they went cahoots in 1902. They built their very first, I'd say like a Model A vehicle, but those aren't the ones that we're interested in. The ones that we are mostly intrigued with in the 4x4 community is starting with the Scout 800. This was the pinnacle, I'd say, for the beginning of true 4x4, American 4x4. IH makes the International 80 in 1960 through 1965. It had a little 4-speed motor and a 4-speed transmission with a PTO. Ultimately, this was designed for ranch workers. as you saw in the video, it was built to be tough, to go places that most vehicles were not designed to go. As time progressed, they made an upgrade, and it was the Scout 800. Had a lot of the same features, but a little bit added here and there to make things better. In fact, I have this clipping from an old magazine that I have framed here. It says, "New Scout 800, born 4 years old." Same body style as the Scout 80, but a few upgrades. Like a bigger motor. It went from a four-cylinder to an 8-cylinder. You could still get it in a 4-cylinder, but most people didn't. And I think I just want to read this little clipping that I have here. "It takes a special kind of experience to build a vehicle as different as a new Scout 800, because there's never been anything like it, except 4 years worth of older Scouts. You can't borrow much from sports car know-how, because sports cars aren't expected to do the things a Scout does. Passenger car experience alone doesn't do it. No ordinary passenger car should ever be driven all the places a Scout can go, on and off the road. The only way to build the best Scout kind of vehicle is to improve on the one that's been produced successfully more than 100,000 times. So we did. We added more comfort, more convenience features, more beauty, and gave it a new name, the Scout 800. Otherwise, it's the same sassy Scout that'll act as a runabout or a station wagon or a boat puller or a trailer hauler or a convertible or a bucket seat fun car. And you can still get it with either 2-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Go to an international dealer to test drive the new Scout 800. You'll see how smart and well-developed a 4-year-old infant can be." That right there, this clipping is history by itself. So as time progresses, we have the Scout 80, the original, the Scout 800. Then in the 70s, 1971, they came out with the Scout 2. It was a wider body, more power. They still could have a 4-cylinder or an 8-cylinder, depending on what model you wanted. They came with either a 4-speed on the floor or an automatic. From there, they just kind of went off of that based on family size. They had the Travel All. That was a 4-door, 4-wheel drive, 2 bench seats, and it was to haul the family around. Farmers love kids, so what'd they build? They built a 4-wheel drive station wagon. And then they have the Travel Light, I believe. The Traveler. And it was just like the Scout 2, except it was longer. Had two doors instead of 4. And 2 bench seats, I believe. This was to keep the sleek, classic look of the Scout 2, but be able to haul all the kids. The crazy thing about the Scout is it was designed from multiple different vehicles. It was crazy. So I have a 74 International Scout 2. As I work on it, I notice a few things. The motor, 345 International motor. Perfect. The transmission, 727 TorqueFlite. That's, I believe, a Mopar transmission. The wiring harness, I rewired it. It's wired like a Chevy. The door handles come out of a Plymouth Roadrunner. these small little details that I've noticed, that they just took the good parts and put it all into one. Ultimately, I think the Scout is just an amazing vehicle from the get-go. If they weren't, they wouldn't be so sought after to tear them down and build them how you want. That is until Volkswagen got a hold of the Scout brand. And this is my personal opinion. That's all I have to say. And you can feel differently if that's what you choose. But Volkswagen bought the Scout name and has decided to make this iconic vehicle fully electric. And it hurts my soul. Yeah, it's when they brought back the Ford Bronco, the Scout's competitor, I was very pleased. You know, I'm not against Ford Bronco. Ford Broncos are awesome. The older versions, and the new version, they don't have great safety features, but what good actual four-wheel drive vehicle has great safety features? They just don't. So when they brought back the Ford Bronco, I think they did it just wonderfully. They did a two-wheel drive with a gas motor, with an automatic or manual, depending on your preference, lifted, big tires, multiple packages based on what your budget was, to go out and run the trails. And when I heard International was doing the same thing, I thought for sure they were going to build something wonderful. Volkswagen, they wanted to be people pleasers and build one more mom car. Yep. That's the hard thing. That's the sad thing about it. It's ultimately just a mom car. Yeah. I got a couple details for this. It has 800 volt lithium ion battery, which can last up to 350 miles, or with the extended range, 500 miles. On highway, that is awesome. Out in the wilderness, I've never seen a plug-in in the middle of a trail before, and I don't think that's gonna work good for four-wheel drive. Another thing is lithium-ion batteries are extremely heavy. So you have this heavy, explosive car, basically, because if you puncture an ion battery, it explodes. So you have this heavy bomb of a vehicle driving around on two tracks or rock crawling, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. The next thing is, it was designed more for luxury. Okay. The Scout was iconic for the removable top, and in the model that was shown, it didn't show that the top will come off. That was the whole point of the Scout, was to take the top off, load everybody in or everything, and go play or go work, not be another just SUV. And then also the pricing. The pricing for this vehicle, something that you can buy a Ford Bronco for $80,000, and it'll have pretty good updated suspension system and a manual transmission, and for $60,000, you're basically just getting the name Scout so you can go talk to your buddies and be like, oh, I drive a 2026 Scout. But there's no, it ain't putting its mouth where its money is. Or it's not putting its money where its mouth is, whatever it is. It's ultimately just kind of a people pleaser. Now, Volkswagen went after this EV style 4-wheel drive, ultimately to, I hate saying this, save the environment, quote unquote. Except they're not going to. It's kind of a waste. They put more pollutant in the air digging at lithium ion mines with their dozers, with their excavators, with their dump trucks, with shipping it over here, all the plastic. And then, I mean, that alone is so much pollutant. If that's their big push on why they did it. And then they also have the disposable. What do you do? These EV cars, this EV Scout that's going to come out is just going to be like an iPhone, right? You can maybe get 10 years out of it. Maybe. And then what's going to happen? The battery's going to burn out. It's going to start losing a charge. And you're not going to replace the battery for $30,000 or $20,000 or $10,000, maybe $10,000, maybe. But you're going to try to trade this electric vehicle in that has a burned up battery, and they're just going to laugh at you, ultimately. So I don't know. I don't know really what the good solution is. I think the good solution for their Scout is put a diesel motor in it. Toyota's doing a great job with the Hilux down in Australia. They are putting diesel motors into their pickups, their Hiluxes, and I think that's great. Burns cleaner. You can get more power, more torque. It takes longer. You can go farther on diesel fuel than gas. I don't know. I really want, I think ultimately I would really want to have Volkswagen come to the trails that I drive and do a side-by-side comparison and see if they actually are willing, not willing, can hold up to what they say they can hold up to. In the dead of winter, they're not gonna, it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna lie. It just doesn't make sense what's going on. The next podcast is gonna be more for people who are starting to get into 4-wheel drives and 4x4ing and rock crawling and basically what they need to start. I'll give you a little insight. My very first 4x4 was a 1981 Toyota SR5. And when I bought it for $300. It ran on 3 cylinders out of the 4, and it was rolled 3 times. Yeah. But I went places. That was not branding for Toyota, but I definitely went places. Well, thank you for listening to the 4x4 Chronicles. I hope to catch your ear on the next one. If you want to watch this podcast, you can follow me at 4x4 USA and go to my podcast section, and you'll be able to watch this full podcast right then and there. Other than that, thank you for listening on Apple Podcasts and streaming it on Spotify. And like always, God bless.